What are the sources of Norse paganism? Where do we get the information that drives this modern Reconstructionist path? In this episode of How to Heathen, we will dive into the foundational texts like the Eddas, historical accounts of Viking raids, the writings of travelers like Fadlan, and even ancient Roman records from people like Pliny the Elder. We'll also explore how the oral tradition of folklore and tales fills in the gaps left by these fragmented sources. Together, these help paint the picture of the beliefs and practices followed by modern Norse pagans. Because this is How to Heathen. The Codex Regius Eddas are two important books that give us much of what we know about Norse mythology today. The Poetic Edda, preserved in the Codex Regius, is a collection of ancient poems passed down orally before being written down in the 13th century. These poems include the Havamal, which details the creation and end of the world, the Havamal, Odin's advice on life and morality, and the Grimsmal, where Odin reveals cosmic knowledge. There's also the Skirnismal, telling the story of Freyr's servant wooing the giantess Gerd, the Lokasena, a heated exchange between Loki and the gods, and the Thermskavida, where Thor recovers his soul and hammer by dressing like a bride. Yes, the god of thunder went in drag. Additionally, the Codex Regius contains heroic lays like the Lay of Helgi, a Hunnigsbane, and parts of the Nibelungenlied, recounting legendary feats and battles. The Codex Regius mysteriously disappeared after its creation in the 13th century and resurfaced in 1643, when Icelandic bishop Bjornfjorn Svensson sent it to King Frederick III of Denmark. It remained in Denmark until 1971, when it was finally returned to Iceland, playing a crucial role in preserving the Norse stories and sagas until today. The Prose Edda, written by historian Snorri Sturluson, organizes many of these myths into a clearer narrative. Together, these books form the foundation of modern Norse paganism. Even though they were written long after the Viking Age, often with some Christian influence, despite their importance, they still leave gaps, meaning modern Norse pagans often have to reconstruct their beliefs from these fragmented sources. Historical accounts and naming of the Viking Age. Many of the historical accounts we rely on for understanding Norse paganism comes from outside observers, such as Anglo-Saxon chronicles and the Icelandic sagas. These writings were mostly created by monks or historians who witnessed Viking raids and settlements. Though often focused on conflict, these texts give us clues about the daily lives and beliefs of the Norse people. The term Viking Age itself didn't exist during that time. It was created later by historians to describe the period of expansion, raiding, and exploration by the Norse people. The Viking Age is said to have started around 793 CE. This labeling can affect how we view their culture, often focusing more on the warrior activities than the actual religious beliefs. In addition to the ancient sources listed in this video, modern interpretations like my book, The Modern Havamal, offer a contemporary take on the wisdom of the Norse gods. And don't forget, the sale of this book directly supports the production of my documentary, American Heathens, showcasing Norse pagan communities across the country, which is set to begin filming around late August to early September of 2025. You can get your copy today from the link in the description down below. Despite all these historical accounts, we still only have a partial picture of what the Viking world was like. Many details of Norse life and religion were left out or seen through the lens of foreign writers who didn't fully understand or sympathize with Norse customs. This means that while historical writings are helpful, they also require careful interpretation to understand what Norse paganism really looked like. Al-Tartushi and Ibn Fadlan, in addition to European sources, travelers from the Middle East like Al-Tartushi and Ibn Fadlan provide some of the only outside views of Viking life. Ibn Fadlan, an Arab diplomat, famously described his encounters with the Vikings or Rus in 922 CE. His detailed accounts of a Viking funeral show us a unique and rare glimpse into the ritualistic practices of the people at that time. Unlike European monks, Fadlan's perspective was less biased on religious conflict, though he was still shocked by what he saw and judged them harshly according to his own cultural standards. These accounts are extremely valuable because they come from outside of Europe and offer different perspectives on the Norse people and their way of life. However, much like other historical sources, these writings are limited and only offer a small window into Norse paganism. What Fadlan recorded was just a snapshot of one Viking group, so it's still difficult to get the full picture of the Norse religious experience from these sources alone. Saxo Grammaticus, the Gesta Danorium. Saxo Grammaticus, a Danish historian writing in the 12th century, penned the Gesta Danorium, a book that mixes Danish history with Old Norse legends and stories. While his writings are heavily influenced by Christianity, Saxo includes many tales about gods, heroes, and kings from the pagan past. His work helps preserve stories that were being forgotten as Christianity spread across Scandinavia, even though he tried to present these tales in a way that fit Christian morality. Saxo's work remains a key source for understanding pre-Christian Norse beliefs. However, since Saxo wrote long after the Viking Age, much of what he recorded was already shaped by Christian ideas, and it can be hard to tell where the original pagan beliefs end and the Christian interpretations begin. Despite this, Gesta Danorium provides a rich resource for modern scholars and Norse pagans looking to learn more about the legends and beliefs of the past. Pliny the Elder. Pliny the Elder, a Roman author, wrote about many topics in his book, Natural History, including the customs of the Germanic tribes. While he references to early Germanic and Proto-Norse religious practices are brief, they offer one of the earliest glimpses into the world that would later become Norse pagans. Other Roman writers like Tacitus also describe these northern tribes, giving us some of the first recorded observations of their religious customs and belief systems. Though Pliny and others were outsiders, their writings helped modern Norse pagans connect today's practices to much older traditions. These sources show that long before the Viking Age, the tribes of Northern Europe were already developing religious practices that would later evolve into what we know as Norse paganism. Like many ancient records, they provide only pieces of the puzzle, but they are crucial in understanding the deep roots of the spirituality. Tacitus and Germania. Tacitus, another Roman historian, wrote Germania in 98 CE, offering one of the earliest descriptions of the Germanic tribes, which included the ancestors of the Norse people. Though he never visited the lands he described, Tacitus' work is based on second-hand accounts and Roman military reports. He depicted the Germanic tribes as noble savages, barbaric, yet virtuous compared to the Romans, emphasizing their bravery in battle, deep connection to nature, and unique customs. Germania has since become a significant text for historians and Norse pagan scholars, as it provides rare insights into early Germanic culture before the Christianization of Europe. However, a warning is necessary. Some problematic groups, particularly neo-Nazis, have misused Germania to pass off their hate-fueled ideologies as academic or historical, which distorts its true context, filling in the holes, the Swiss cheese nature of Norse paganism. Norse paganism, as we know it today, is often compared to Swiss cheese because there are so many gaps in the information we have. Much of what we know comes from the written sources mentioned above, but those only tell part of the story. The rest was passed down through oral tradition, which included folklore, tales, and local stories that varied greatly depending on who was telling them and where they were from. This oral tradition preserved many beliefs, rituals, and stories long before they were written down, but much of it was lost over time, or altered through retellings. To fill in these gaps, modern followers rely on archaeological discoveries, personal spiritual experiences known as unverified personal gnosis, or UPG, and careful reconstruction of old practices. Archaeologists uncover important clues like ancient burial sites and religious artifacts that help piece together how Norse pagans worshipped and lived. With this information, UPG allows individuals to interpret and adapt old beliefs to fit their modern lifestyle. In this way, Norse paganism continues to evolve, blending ancient wisdom with new interpretations to fill in the holes left by the time gaps of history. As we've explored the major sources of Norse paganism and how modern followers piece together this ancient faith, it is clear that understanding our past takes a combination of historical research, oral tradition, and personal interpretation. If you know of any other sources, please leave them in the comments. And if you found this episode helpful, make sure to like, drop a comment, and smash that subscribe button so you don't miss any future content. Let's keep building this community and sharing knowledge together. And if you liked this video, you're gonna love this one. And until next time, stay fucking savage.